So this is the first video in our series about fussy eating, which is all about taking the conflict out of eating.
Yeah, so one of the main problems when we have a fussy eater is that we sort of spiral into this pattern of trying to control what our children are eating. And it becomes almost like a power struggle because we're saying, we want you to eat this. They often are saying, well, we don't want to eat that. And everybody gets more and more fraught. And the child feels very controlled because, yes, as adults, we're trying to control, we're trying to direct what they eat. But really, the one way that we can be a little bit more successful is if we back off and take some of that conflict out of the eating.
Yeah, and actually give the child more control over what it is eating, and play less of the policeman or woman. I remember when my daughter was 2 years old and we went to the UK on holiday, and she just wouldn't eat anything. We were just like so frustrated, and yeah, also a bit, we spent a lot of money in pubs, trying to get her to eat something, and she just wouldn't do it. So that was, I think, too much attention on what she was eating or not eating.
Yeah, and I think sometimes as parents we seem to have a lot of our self-worth is tied up in how well our children eat. So we feel bad when they don't eat enough, we worry about them, and it just escalates for us because as we get more and more fraught, then we pass that on to the children, and of course then they sort of fight back, they struggle back against us. So what we were thinking of talking about today is how to sort of diffuse the situation so that we are not
That's a good one.
so that we are not so emotionally invested in what our children are eating, and that can be hard, can't it, Sabina? It's very hard to step back and say,
and not be stressed about
it. And I think one of the places we started talking about this together was saying that quite often the child is trying to control what they eat because they feel quite controlled in all aspects of their life. We know that the school system helps them, sort of tries to control them. We as parents tell them what to wear, what time to leave the house, what to eat. So sometimes for children, just that little bit of control over what they eat gives them some control.
Yes, so we could involve them in the cooking in the first place, or choosing the recipe or whatever we're, thinking of making, and just asking them. From a very early age, actually, not when they are all of a sudden teenagers and refusing to eat what we want to cook for them.
So if they have like a couple of choices, so we don't give them the whole world, quite often it's, do you want this meal or do you want that meal? Or shall we choose a recipe together? If we choose this meal, how do you want the sauce making? And see if they can feel like they have a little bit more control over what they're going to be eating.
And also the ingredients, you can give them a choice of vegetables, for example, or other ingredients if there's a choice. So just within boundaries, let them choose.
Yeah, because really, why do we as parents feel the need to dictate exactly what they eat? So the next point for the children, I would say, is having the food on the table, almost like a buffet, so that the children can help themselves. Now that can sound quite scary because we're so used to putting the food on the plate and expecting them to eat a certain amount. But if we put the food on the table, we have a selection of little things, not too big a selection, but a selection of things that the children can choose from. It's always very surprising how children eventually, because they're left to their own devices, will actually take some of that food. So it's almost like you're not looking, you've got the food there, they can take it or leave it if they want it.
But also we are respecting their preferences, because let's face it, at the end of the day, we're all different and we all have different needs, and children are, just the same as us adults. So there's a myth that, like making one meal is actually going to satisfy everybody's needs, with the same meal. That's impossible. So by giving them, like this buffet-like, style-like choice, you're making sure that the child actually can listen to its body and to its needs and just take whatever it needs.
Yeah, and I think really that also helps appetite regulation, doesn't it? Because we don't know how hungry they are, we don't know how much they can eat, and if they're left to be able to take what they want, then either they are hungry or they're not hungry. They can regulate themselves, which is a really good lesson that we all should learn while we're children. so that we know how to regulate our appetite.
Yeah, listen to our stomach
Listen,
content.
listen to our own feelings on our instincts on that, really.
Yeah.
So this is a method that does work. We've seen it work with families where they have had trouble with the children eating, but just a very small choice of foods, have them on the table. The child feels involved, especially if there was a little bit of involvement in choosing the meal. If there's more than one child in the family, then one child can choose one night, one child can choose another night from a very small selection. It'll be the selection that you choose, and then they will have that small choice to choose from.
Well, we hope that helps, and see you at next time with our second video.